We're back with a bonus conversation you'll see only here on CBS News, New York. So I'd like to ask you about congestion pricing. It's, coming down the pike at some point in the future. But a lot of people are concerned that commuters will start parking in Upper Manhattan and take all the on-street parking.
Yes.
How do you feel about having the city issue residential parking permits?
Oh, we're already having a problem with people from the suburbs coming in early in the morning, circling around, taking a spot on a residential street and hopping on the subway because they don't want to pay for a garage. Now, it's only going to get worse once the congestion charge is in place. And it's not fair. And almost every city in the country has a solution, which are residential parking permits.
So why don't we do it? We
should have it in here. I've had legislation in the city council on this for years. I believe it's urgent that we get it in place now before congestion pricing hits. I think there's growing political support for it. The previous mayoral administration was strongly against it for a variety of reasons.
But why be against something that seems like a no-brainer?
I'll let them speak for themselves. But I'll tell you that it's just not fair that people are dumping their cars on our streets, and that residential parking permits are working. They could also generate some revenue that could help improve neighborhoods as well. So it could be a win-win, depending if it's priced correctly. We're pushing hard, and I think there's growing support. So
I wonder how you feel about all these unlicensed cannabis shops. They're popping up all over Manhattan. I mean, there's only 3 licensed shops. The rest, I mean, they're everywhere. I wonder if you think that the state caused this by being so slow to issue the licenses for the regular legal pot shops.
Well, first let me say I believe in what the state is trying to do. New York is really prioritizing equity. We're trying to overcome decades of the war on drugs.
But equity is very slow.
It turns out to be too slow, Marcia. We are behind, and at the same time, we now have over 1,500 unlicensed cannabis shops. Probably over 500 in Manhattan. Just in New York City.
Come on.
Over 500 in Manhattan.
You're kidding.
I am not kidding.
So what are you going to do about it? You're the Manhattan Borough president.
First the sheriff went out and issued fines and seized product, and it didn't work. The reason it didn't work
is why. Okay.
They make so much money that that's just the cost of doing business. They're paying the fines, they're replenishing their product. There's a new strategy that the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, has to go after their leases using kind of an obscure law used against like crack houses.
Of those 4 cases he brought, 3 are still open.
That was the city law department, and the progress has been too slow. I agree. These are a safety problem. They're being robbed regularly because it's known they have so much cash on hand. They're selling to minors with packaging and branding that appeals to little kids. Like it's a problem on so many levels, and it's ultimately going to kill the legal industry, which is where we're going to get tax revenue and create economic empowerment for communities that were left behind by the war on drugs. So we've got to fix this. We've got to rein in the illegal stores.
So is the answer to go to the state and say, get on the stick and issue the licenses?
Yes, we need to push on that, and we are, and I am. But there also needs to be new legal tools to shut down the stores, and I think that the state's also pushing that so we can have more aggressive enforcement.
So speaking of marijuana, there are a number of people who complain about secondhand marijuana smoke.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. People, complain that it comes up through the air conditioning and heating systems in apartment buildings. It's in parks. What should we do about that? I mean, should we say that you can't smoke marijuana in public spaces?
Well, right now the rules are the same as they are for traditional cigarettes. So it's workplaces that are prohibited, in parks, entertainment venues like theaters and restaurants. You cannot smoke tobacco, you can't use a vape, you can't use marijuana. They're currently legal on places like sidewalks. Now, apartment buildings, I didn't mention on that list. And so that's up to the individual building. And an increasing number of buildings are actually outlawing marijuana.
Can they do it legally?
Yes. And in fact, public housing nationally has outlawed it.
Has NYCHA done it? No.
I believe so. It's been phased in now in NYCHA as well. And I don't know how the enforcement is. Some co-ops are more aggressive than others. I think you're right. We probably need some sort of coordinated city plan for this. We need to balance. We don't want to push prohibition so hard that we create illegal activity, but we also have to care about people's quality of life. So housing is where it becomes very complicated.
I know one of the issues we've been focusing on are the street sheds, the scaffolding
Yes.
that is up everywhere. And
Yes.
I was astonished to read your report that said that some of these scaffolds are up an average of 500 days.
Yes.
How is that possible, and what can be done to stop
Marcia,
it?
there are over 200 which have been up more than 5 years.
5 years?
And some that have been up 10 and 15 years.
So, but how is that legal?
The rule is that if there's unsafe facade conditions, you have to have scaffolding up.
How about fixing the facade?
Exactly, and there's buildings who aren't doing it. Some of them are financially distressed, and they're like, I don't want to spend $1 million to fix the facade. I'm just going to rent a scaffold. So our plan would both give low-cost financing to make the repairs and put fines in for buildings who don't, and even let the city go in and do the repairs in extreme cases and bill the landlord.
So I want to end this interview on a lighter note. I want to ask you some questions that I recently asked to New Yorkers. So number one, why do you love New York?
There's no better place in the world. The energy, the excitement, the arts, the diversity, the dynamism, the challenges. I love New York. I'm never leaving.
What needs to change?
I am concerned about quality of life issues that you talk about on this show. It's ultimately going to impact our economy, and so I'm working on it on every front.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about moving here to New York?
You got to be here. There's no place like it. It's worth the challenges. The energy is like nowhere in the world. Come here. We want you. We need you.
Last question. If you were ever going to leave New York, where would you go?
Ooh. No plans. I'm staying here. Period. Refuse to answer. Plead the fifth.
Good answer, Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine. We're going to have to leave it right there, and thank you for
Thank you,
joining
Marcia.
me.